How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Dan Herr here for ACTE 635, module number 2. Let's do this thing. I've been teaching at the Hempfield School District for 16 years. The first 11 years were at the middle school. The past 5 years have been at the high school, where I teach algebra, geometry, and statistics. I have 3 lovely daughters that you can see over here, 10, 8, and 5 respectively. Of course, don't forget the boss. Don't ask me how old she is, though, because I'll end up either with the penalty of death or sleeping on the couch, whatever comes first. A little bit about me: I enjoy being outside at all times when I can. I love fantasy football. I think Panera is highly overrated. I live in a household that all they want to do is go to Panera and waste our money for overpriced bread and a little thing of soup. Listen, I'm 230 pounds. You don't get to be 230 pounds by eating a little thing of soup. It's overrated. You've heard it here. I'm sticking to it. All right, let's do this thing. 5 points from the video. From lecturer to facilitator, for me, that's going to be very, very difficult to sort of let that go, mostly because I know what I am and I know what I'm not. I enjoy sort of having that back and forth in front of the classroom, so that would be difficult for me to let that go. Additionally, going from fixed groups to dynamic groups, I find sometimes there are benefits to having fixed groups because students, at least in my classroom, often choose those groups. And I know that you can't always work with people that you like, but at the same time, I do think that there's benefits. There's more of a comfort level there to say, hey, Ollie, I don't know how to do this problem, and Ollie can dive in and help me out, where if I'm working with somebody who I might not know, I might not have that comfort level. But I do, trust me, I do understand the thought process behind dynamic grouping, and it does make sense. From explainer to intervener, I've tried this multiple times, and part of the reason I became a teacher, it wasn't because I loved math, it's because I enjoy to help. So it's hard for me to pull back that explainer and try and overhelp sometimes at problems. That's something I know that I need to continue to work on, and to just intervene ever so slightly and really continue to push the kids to solve it on their own. From content focus to content skills and mindset focus, for myself, and we're all different, we talk about mindset a lot in my math class. It's probably my coaching background, but it is what it is. And also with skills, math is very skill driven, so at least for me, I feel like that's achievable. From generalist to specialist, if I could be the specialist that gets to do the direct instruction and gets to have that little bit of time on stage, for lack of better words, I know what I am, I know what I'm not. I could definitely do that. If you said, hey, you're going to be our go-to with the lesson plans, yeah, I feel bad for that district. So that's my thoughts on that. From our readings, I really tried to take a macro approach. As Ollie said in the setup of this, a lot of the readings already focused on the text side, the skill side. So I tend to say, all right, let's see big picture here, what we can really try and improve upon as teachers. So the first one was from the ACTE standards. It's reflection. Self-reflection is something that I think we start doing a lot early on as teachers, and then we kind of let that go, mostly because it's easier to not self-reflect, and it's easier to say, I've been doing these lessons for years, I know they're good. Well, if we're going to truly get into a blended learning classroom, it's going to be new for all of us. Even those of us who are blended already, we're nowhere near where we need to be. So that self-reflection piece is going to be imperative if we really want to move forward and do right by our students. Second, also from the ACTE standards, is collaboration. It's really, and I suffer from this big time, it's really hard to become a successful teacher if you're not willing to bounce ideas back and forth, to be willing to take constructive criticism and apply it, and to be willing to also speak up and say to our colleagues, I really like what you did, Have you ever thought about doing it this way? Side note, just a little bit of soapbox. Highly recommend, if you've never been a mentor teacher for a student teacher or something, you should at least try it once in your career, if nothing else, because it really makes you consider how you give feedback to our colleagues. And I actually found it made me a much better teacher, because then I sort of took those reflective qualities and really tried to dial it back to my own teaching. But then again, what do I know? The third skill and competencies from our reading, specifically start with the why, not the what. I really liked what they had to say, and I kind of pulled two ideas together with this. What they had to say about the Google Glass later on in the reading, I want to say it was page 41-ish, about protagonists and conservatives, about how they weren't willing to sort of move forward with it. And then they used the other example about the iPhone, and how, because that became so overbearing in our society, they really sort of came around to the idea. I feel the same way with blended learning. A lot of times people are so hung up on the what of the blended learning. Oh, there's my kids in the background. They're so hung up on the what of the blended learning that they forget the why. Why are we really trying to do this? Well, we're trying to make sure that every kid can grow as much as possible. We're trying to reach every kid where they're at. So if we can focus on that why, and remember that that's why we're taking on this arduous journey, because don't get it twisted, this is going to be tough to really apply blended learning appropriately. But if we stay focused on that why, it's worthwhile. Number 4, differentiation. Man, this is something that we've been working on in education since I started, and hopefully prior to even that, although sometimes I question, but it's hard to say. And I really appreciate this picture as well, because it really does show everything that's going on in our students' minds, and within, relative, so to speak, but it shows that all of them are different, and here we have to try and find a way to reach all of them where they're at. We've tried that in the traditional classroom, and it's really difficult, which is why, this blended outlook where we can have direct instruction, we can have groups that are dynamic working together, and we can have, individualized instruction on our, platforms. I really feel like that's the best way to differentiate and reach everyone where they need to be. Last but not least, again, super macro on this, but honesty and humility. I think it's so easy to end up on either side of this spectrum. Some people are so hard on themselves when they come to teachers. I think of one of my colleagues in particular. She's just through the roof incredible. And whenever you talk to her, she only tells me what she cannot do, which just baffles my mind. And then we have colleagues on the other side of the spectrum who should be a little more reflective. I think that's as politically correct as I can say that. And then they'll tell you, that they're just crushing it on every level. It's like, well, somewhere in the middle there might be the truth. But I also stole a little bit here, a very famous phrase from Roosevelt: comparison is the thief of joy. You want to also be careful about comparing yourself to your colleagues. Incorporating their ideas, that's awesome. Using their positivity, awesome. But, that one teacher that I mentioned who's just on top of the world when it comes to being an educator, if I compare myself to her, I'm never going to think that I'm worth anything. So you really want to be careful there with the comparison piece. Honesty, sure, but not necessarily a comparison. All right. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll be seeing you. All right. Peace.